Hey everybody, Kimo Sabe here. Giving you a more time, well, taking a little more time with the update. I wanted to get an update out there real quick, just in case this thing was going to give the trade setup and not offer much of an entry. What I'm kind of looking at for, like I said in the video, was for this pattern to start repeating after an accumulation range. What is possible though is this can be moving, this leg could be repeating over here instead. This doesn't look like a move that this move down doesn't match the larger move down. So I'm a little more inclined to have this reverse sometime after maybe taking the 100,000 liquidity and then closing a 1 hour higher high. However, if this thing does push up just like this wave, kind of in reverse, it would make it up to 102, like just touching the previous resistance, and then might come down for that 99.5 or something like that, just to take out that low. And that would match that leg coming down over here, and that would be sometime Sunday afternoon, maybe in the evening time, something like that. But we will see. We will see what we get. Something I also wanted to touch on was the potential implications of tariffs and the tariff wars that we may be coming upon. It might just bring this trend straight down. Similar to like a COVID crash type thing, we don't know the implications of all of the tariffs that are getting imposed on other countries from the United States. So this could be stock market panic time, just looking for a reason for a correction, and you could have severe moves down that nobody's really looking for, well, except for the bears that are just always bearish, saying every top is a top. Maybe they're right this time if those tariffs do things that we're not expecting. Um, the stock market could have a severe correction, and Bitcoin could go down way farther than anybody would expect, which is why you got to have your stop losses in place. On the weekend, if you're trading the weekend, this is likely a manipulation push down just because it's weekend on low liquidity. But if this continues, then it could be telling for what's going to happen to the stock market on Monday morning or when futures open tomorrow night. Definitely something to be aware of, as those tariffs kind of ramp up. I know Canada's not very happy with the tariffs. I'm sure Mexico isn't happy either. And this could give significant economic constraints to many countries, including the USA. It's quite possible. I really don't know the implications because we haven't really had large tariffs implemented on countries for almost 100 years. We've had tariffs, but not looking at it as the majority of your country's income. Uh, so we don't know what this is going to end up doing. This could have very dire consequences for Trump's administration. Maybe that's how the markets top, just to have an excuse to say, hey, it was because of the tariffs and it was a big policy mistake. But still bullish until proven otherwise. But yeah, if this thing continues down substantially and closes like a weekly below like 90, 95, I really wouldn't like that. It would have to have a major reversal very quickly off of that. But something to definitely keep in mind. So keeping that in mind, I wanted to bring the comments. I really like the comments that I've been getting lately, and I wanted to go over some of them while I'm kind of watching the charts for potential trade entries if it gives it to me. So Daniel Benkenstein says MSTR reports its Bitcoin holdings on the 5th of February. Tesla reports its holdings, and the stock went up 4%. I think Tesla um, had an earnings report that said that their earnings, a lot of their earnings, quarterly earnings, came from Bitcoin that they hold. So MicroStrategy being a catalyst for Bitcoin price moving up, I think it's already priced in. Everybody knows MicroStrategy's been buying. They announce when they buy. Everybody knows their holdings, so I don't know that it would be a catalyst, in my opinion. I think the markets they're all manipulated both ways, up and down. So um, I don't really look towards the news and things like that, but it could be a catalyst that'll give the market a reason to move. And thanks for the comment here, Mark. And Tommy, thanks for the comment. John, don't know, see what plays out. All right, thanks for the comment, Tiago. Tiago Campello? Lorican. Cycle analysis is pointing to lower. It's looking like lower time, looking like a lower, like a LT daily cycle going into a weekly cycle low mid-March. Yeah, Camel's been talking about the weekly cycle mid-March, and that definitely can be what we're all waiting for, is a March cycle low, which, yeah, I'm definitely cool with that. And timing aspects of an extended wave beginning in April, not the expectation of a quiet summer, or will the extended fifth be done and dusted by May? So the price action that I'm looking for, if from these areas above 100K, if price pushes to all-time highs or close to it from there, retraces, I think February is going to be the start of that extended wave, and the extensions should lead into March and be done by April, if I had to guess. Thanks for the breakdown. Here's my SafePal wallet. Sharon Harris is a scam. Do not have anything to do with Sharon. She's a scam. Mahmed, thank you for the comment. Thanks, Kimo. Where is this idea of repeating moves coming from? Why should Bitcoin copy what has happened in the past? Michael Turley has a great question here. Because the market can do whatever it wants. Also, are you still looking for 83K or have we moved on? I was only looking for 83K if price traded down to 92,000 on the push down, but we have not come anywhere near that. So this push down, if that would have continued down, I would have had 83 on the table, but price reversed and is mimicking the pattern that I was looking for before. So not looking for 83. I'd rather not see 83 from here, but it's certainly still possible. Everything's on the table. And the idea of repeating moves, where does that come from? Well, that's like Elliott wave theory goes into that. They look for repeating moves. You look for fives and threes in the market. And Ralph Elliott, who was the guy that invented Elliott wave theory back 100 years ago, noticed the repeating pattern consistently over and over to have an impulse in the direction of the trend, and then a three-wave counter trend, and then a continuation of the primary trend. And that's just a repeating pattern. Or like in Wyckoff, if you have a range like that, the Wyckoff says look for a spring and then a show of strength, which we didn't get a show of strength there. We got to pull back down to previous support, see if it's support again. But those are patterns that repeat over and over. The way that I look at the chart is kind of similar to Wyckoff and Elliott wave kind of combined, mixed with a little bit of Gann theory. So if I have a move repeat, so like this move came down and made like an H symbol, this move came down and made like an H. So those patterns repeat. So what comes after that repeats is what preceded it. And it looks like we've got that move that can coincide with that move. And then some chop, similar to some chop. And over time, I've just noticed that the patterns tend to mirror each other. How you came into a trend and into a mid-trend correction, it comes out of the trend the same way if you know how to spot the patterns. And the reason I look for the patterns is so that I kind of have an idea of what I'm looking at. But as you say, price can do whatever it wants. That is crucial to understand, that price can do whatever it wants, and it can move haphazardly and very randomly. So the patterns allow for an idea to form as to a pattern, This one is like this pattern being ABC there, this leg down, matching that leg. So that's a pattern. If this makes a higher high close, my stop loss is right there. So I just need to know how to manage risk and where to look for the trend or for the move down to complete. After the move down completes, I expect whatever preceded that trend down to repeat or something new to happen. So if something new happens, say this is just an ABC up and we're primary trending down and kind of repeating this larger leg, this would continue down. I'd get stopped out. So that keeps me safe in my trade. And then I see this pattern coming down to like 95, 96, and then repeating this chop maybe. So it just, the pattern kind of goes to where it goes. And once it gets there, then you reassess and be like, okay, what pattern can I see? But yeah, the pattern doesn't have to repeat. It gives me an idea of what to look for, though, if it does indeed play. It doesn't have to, definitely doesn't have to. But that's the basis of Elliott wave theory and the repeating patterns in Wyckoff as well. And Gann theory makes you look at things like tops predict bottoms and bottoms predict tops, is something that's said in Gann theory. Because the way that W.D. Gann looked at things, it definitely did, and he was able to predict the market fairly well, including time and price. So thanks for that question, Michael. And also, any thoughts on MSTR? We'll jump up the chart there on MSTR. Let me go through the comments and we'll jump on MSTR. But the higher lows, pyramid style. Yes, I definitely would like to pyramid into positions, but I want to see the liquidity taken from all-time high and then a flush down, and that's the higher low I'm looking for on a daily/weekly. Daniel says we haven't had an alt season because there hasn't been any narrative yet. Yeah, that is the narrative. Somebody answered you. What are you talking about? It's been a massive meme season by retail. So that kind of is your narrative for this cycle. So we haven't had any alt season because there hasn't been any narrative yet. 2017, you had the smart contracts. You actually had the coming of all the shit coins that were built on Ethereum. Kind of like a .com bubble type thing going on, but it was a shitcoin bubble. Then in 2021 had the DeFi. Yeah, I remember the DeFi craze, and NFTs were another thing. And 2025, it's a big nothing burger for alts as King BTC steals the show. So the narrative for 2025 is likely governmental institutional plays and what they expect to do with things. It may also be utility, the idea that these projects are actually going to be used. I really don't know. I don't track the fundamentals of anything. I just look at the charts. If the chart looks good, then I'm good. If the chart doesn't look so good, then I want to have nothing to do with it. But yeah, the meme season has been what's going on, and that is telling of what type of cycle this is. If you have these projects that let you know upfront these are not projects that are going to do anything, they're just looking for number go up, then you can tell that the entire market has what I call a misallocation of capital, where there's too much liquidity flowing in the system, and that liquidity has to go into something. And since there's no good investments to make and everything's overvalued, then it's just as good an investment to throw it into a meme coin as it is to throw it into a legitimate project and or stock/company. So that's the misallocation of capital that's going on, which really tells you you're at the end of some kind of major cycle, at least in my opinion. All right, this one. I'm a bit confused at how you were looking at this. This is GTC Storm. A little confused at how you are looking at this. Are you saying that we are now in a mirror image of that prior price action? So it's possible that that is a mirror image of what's what went on before, and we're just repeating patterns, because that's what price action tends to be, is just patterns repeating on all time frames. Price action tends to be fractal in nature, so what happens on a larger time frame can repeat on a lower time frame, and patterns that you've seen happen will repeat. However, sometimes I've noticed they repeat in reverse. Actually, quite often I find them repeating in reverse, and it's just, we were looking for liquidity in December, and January is not disappointing either. It's just hunting liquidity back and forth. So it's 2 months of sideways chop, and one way that I look at it is just mirroring the patterns and expecting the same thing until price does something different. Have you back tested this kind of pattern recognition? I have, and I trade that consistently. What is to say that it cannot just go off into totally new behavior? That is very correct. It can stop the pattern whenever it wants. Somebody in one of my trading groups had said that you can follow a fractal only so long, and at the most opportune moment, the fractal pattern will fail, and that usually happens for liquidity. You'll have a pattern that's like, oh, this thing's right about to break out because the fractal pattern says that it's about to break out. Everybody's looking at the same thing, and price goes in the opposite direction. Mm, I think you would admit it can do it at once, but you are seeing patterns there. Yeah, it can do it at once. I see patterns just to manage risk and get trade setup ideas on what I'm looking at. So, hope that's helpful. I really like the comments. Some of these are really good. I thought I'd make a video on it. So, thank you much, guys. All right. Let's bring up this MicroStrategies and see what we're looking at here with MicroStrategy. As you can see, very, very large move. You have some kind of pattern push up. You now have this leg down that's matching that leg down, starting to grind up. You really need to keep maintaining higher highs and higher lows there in order to maintain the bullishness. However, just at a glance, I'm seeing a trading range right there. Let me draw that out. So the trading range is right there, right there. So you had a deviation above, deviation above. My idea is price is going to eventually come up to this liquidity. All those highs that are right there, I think the number was 485, was my sell setup idea, because that's 50% of the weekly wick that was above there. So I'm not anticipating a large breakout from MicroStrategy. I'm actually kind of doubtful that it happens, because all during this area, everybody was trying to buy the dip. Everybody's talking about how much higher this is going. This is going way higher. It was all over the news. You have Michael Saylor on Forbes magazine. These are indications of topping behavior, because the whole reason for a market is to sell you something that you want to buy, and also allow you to sell something that you want to sell. So if MicroStrategies is in the news during this consolidation period, then the news is selling you on the idea of buying it. So you're buying, buying, buying. Who is selling? Well, Michael Saylor's selling, and insiders are selling, and anybody that was in from way lower, they're selling, and they have the advertisement in order to get retail or new market participants to buy it as it marks down. So they're just pushing into it and selling into it. So you do have a higher high, higher low thing going on here. You took liquidity from the bottom of the range, and you have a higher high than there. Buy the higher low, push up, grab that liquidity. Now you're pushing down again. I kind of think you push up into 480. I don't know that it does it from here, but it might. But that would likely be a sell setup, because you have orders that are going to be right there. So that's, that pattern makes it go up like that. And then this is your ABC. It would just be a pattern like that. So I'd look for a sell up there, or a take profit if anybody bought down here underneath the range. Take some profit there. and then see what it does. If you close above your all-time high, especially on a weekly, but even a daily might do it, that might tell you that you're breaking out and you're ready for more. However, it's very similar to Nvidia. Nvidia, well, let's pull up the Nvidia chart. So here we have Nvidia on the daily, and I was looking at this as an ABC up, matching that leg down with that leg down, and then having a final push up. I actually nailed that top. I called it out 3 or 4 weeks ahead of time in Camel's live stream, and that was back in May, no, June. Yeah, that was June 10th, I do believe. I was off by a day, so sue me. But it's very indicative of how MicroStrategies is kind of reacting, where Nvidia, during this portion of Nvidia, everybody was talking about it. Everybody was so hyped on Nvidia. Everybody on Twitter, X, and YouTube was saying, don't sell your Nvidia here. This is going way higher. This is a long-term hold. And here we are, 7, 8 months. We're 8 months later. Not much progress, and actually just broke down from a wedge of some sort. So you might be coming down for liquidity. Can this thing go higher? Sure, it can go higher. But this pattern completed right here for me. That would have been my trade setup, and then it's made nominal progress since completing the pattern on June. So anything here could be just distribution, chop, maybe it flushes up real quick to then come back inside of the distribution range and then starts a markdown. That's kind of how I would look at it currently because of how overvalued it appears to be. But it could be undervalued depending on how the currency holds up. That's really the whole, I guess, premise of all trading is how is the currency going to hold up. And if you're talking about the currency, you could talk about the US dollar that is breaking out and continuing its markup, seemingly. That's kind of the way it looks. If you have your trading range right in here, you pushed up for 1079 on Thursday, the 21st of November. That would have been your liquidity grab and your reject down. Your downtrend should have started from there. The fact that you pushed up above it suggests that this breakout is more real than people are expecting, and you should have continued markup on this because you're making higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low. That's a higher high. Working on a higher low right here. I'd expect continuation up until it gives me a series of lower lows and lower highs. It's not doing that so far. This move down appears to be complete. And now you're pushing up, matching this leg. So this is just, looks like it's just going to continue higher in its uptrend. So why is the dollar so strong? Could have something to do with the other currencies that aren't doing so well, like the USD JPY, the Japanese yen. This one looks pretty ominous to me, like it's about to rip higher. And what does that mean for risk assets and things like that? I really don't know. But this looks like a ABC there. That move completed with that. This leg down that matches this leg down looks perfect. Just continuation of trend. And now what you've had come out of there is an impulse, pullback, impulse. Just like this, impulse, pullback, impulse. And you're working on a little pullback. So this looks like it's about to rip higher and match that leg up to 190 before flagging out and doing this grind up. So that would suggest the dollar is going higher and the Japanese yen is going down. Not that the dollar is actually getting more valuable, it's just the Japanese yen is getting way less valuable very, very quickly. That could mean good things for gold and Bitcoin alongside the dollar. It could mean economic problems, though we had the yen carry trade unwind. I think it was this thing that went on right there that kind of had people panic. Markets went down on that. And now you've got a potentiality for this to push up. That may send markets up. And that's dollar milkshake theory, where the currencies around the world and sovereign debt crisis and economic factors of every country kind of in pain, if you will, that money wants to flow somewhere to protect itself. So if that money wants to flow into the US as a safe haven, you're going to see that move and the grind as it gets more painful. So, yeah, you could have risk assets doing the same thing. You could have gold doing the same thing, and that's just other countries outside of the US that want to escape their currency and their failing economies because they're doing pretty poorly. Like Germany's in recession already, has been for the past 2 years. Um, you have stock markets that are at all-time highs around the world, gold at all-time highs, Bitcoin hovering around all-time highs. Currencies around the world are doing very poorly. So that's kind of how I'm looking at it all. It's all like a sovereign debt crisis looking thing, which shout out to Brent Johnson with the dollar milkshake theory. We'll look into that and understand what he's talking about. And let's round out and finish out the video, getting to be a long video. On Bitcoin, 1 hour chart, we currently have that swing high on the 1 hour that I was looking for at 101,200. So if this pushes down and breaks the low, comes back up here and closes above that on a 1 hour, that would initiate the buy setup at the daily candle close, which would be at 100,623. This could support here and stay green for the day and continue to push up. Like I said before, a 1 hour close back inside this consolidation, which I'd like to see it above probably 101,500. A 1 hour close, I might give it a shot. Um, until then, I'd like this to take out the low, pop up, make a higher high, and then I'll buy the higher low and look for a push up into at least this liquidity, and keep my stop tight so I can have a good night. So yeah, watching those patterns. Watch for this pattern to just pop up to 103 and then flush the lows tomorrow, or this is going to reverse over the weekend and short squeeze and get back up to these highs for the weekly candle close, which I would actually like to see that. That would be ideal for the um, bullish ideas, because you currently don't have a higher high on a weekly candle close above 104,500 would tell you that there's your higher high. Look to buy the higher low, and that would keep things a little more bullish. In its current posture, you have a risk of putting in a downtrend here with your lower low and then your lower high, and you may want to put in a low. So that's why you have your stop loss where you need it. But yeah, I'd like to see this, like this week, just close this green right up at the top of the range, like 106. That would be cool. Then you can have a higher high and then buy the higher low. And that's how you make a bull trend. Yeah. Until then, keep your stops tight and have a good night.